In 1971, my father's oldest sister, Vivian, wrote me from her apartment in Grand Rapids. She was by then a widow and in declining health. Her letter revealed that she was still possessed of her wily, sharp intelligence. She wondered whether I would like to have some items concerning our family history. Characteristically, her hints about their importance were veiled and understated. I learned that there were some pictures and things. No one else appeared interested, she surmised. We arranged for a meeting there. My brief visit to Grand Rapids was to open vistas that I could not have imagined. She began with pictures of my father as a boy with his dog. There were pictures of herself and her sister Vera. She showed me some photographs of her mother and father, and she offered me her school diploma. There was a tiny, crude porcelain penny doll, so called because they were so inexpensive in her girlhood. She wanted me to have it. As my interest burgeoned with each piece of memorabilia, she brought out more. "Would you like to have this jackknife? It belonged to your grandfather," she said. His name was James Harold Porter, but people always called him Harold. But you were named after him. To anyone else, perhaps the old knife would have meant little. I was, however, increasingly moved. It had his name on it. My anticipation grew, wondering what other treasures she might have to offer me. I knew by then that I was receiving my special inheritance of family heirlooms, and I reveled. Then came a piece of paper. Old, frail, tattered, which she handed me with no explanation. Mere words are rather poor conductors of the electric emotion I felt. That old, lined, often folded document would empower my thoughts and reorient my energies for years to come. It was a handwritten list of Porter ancestors. There were the broad, flowery strokes of penmanship, which are usually seen in 19th century penmanship books. At the top of the page was the name of someone of whom I had never heard. "I think," she said with measured drama, "that Sereno Porter was your great-great-grandfather." My eyes swept the page at first with minimal comprehension. I scanned names, dates, events, and places. I was stunned by the tally of births, marriages, and deaths. These people were part of my family. The list spanned most of the 1800s. She continued to talk, but for a while I couldn't really listen, and then I heard her say, as she pointed, "That person, Asa L. Porter, was your great-grandfather. I knew him when I was a child. He used to live at the old soldiers' home. He had problems with his eyes." Strangely, unless one recalls the powerful emotions in me at the time, I cannot remember the details of what else we may have discussed then, except for one item. I mention it now because it has some significance in the unfolding romance of our family history, and not because I sensed its importance that day. She tenderly held out an old black leather case. It was worn, broken at the hinges. Inside was a lovely gold ink pen, quite old. This has been in the family for a long time. It may have been from the Porter side. As I held the fragile thing, I began to consider, in addition to its obvious beauty and function, the seeming reverence for it my aunt conveyed. As the years have passed, the pen and the tattered list have become linked in my thoughts. Both items clearly date from the era of my great-great-grandparents. Perhaps that pen was used to make the precious list of family members. The list became the key to my research about the Porters. Without it, the work which I have since undertaken would have been far more difficult, and the product which follows would certainly have been less animated. Clearly, my interest and excitement in the history of the Porter family was sparked by Aunt Vivian's influence and grew from the memorabilia she entrusted to me.